You know what would make that better? A cup of white cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.
Good Saturday morning and welcome to the cafe as White Cane Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. Our special guests this week, Jen Bailey, Molly Geer, the co-directors of the recently wrapped musical Footloose, as seen at the Struthers Library Theater. And as you can see, we are in the White Cane Coffee Cafe, which is open through all that downtown construction. Stop in, get yourself a fresh cup, maybe a iced lemonade or iced mocha, as Molly's got. Delicious baked goods as well, cinnamon rolls, scones, all kinds of things you can ask for. Stop in, get a fresh cup, say hi to the friendly folks here at White Cane. If you don't want to deal with that construction, that's no problem. White Cane's also available on DoorDash. Just place your order, have your favorites delivered right to your door. You can also get your favorite roast to brew at home online at whitecanecoffee.com. And, ladies, I know I've seen all over the place rave reviews, including my own. My wife and I got a chance to go see the show on last Saturday. Was absolutely fantastic. But how do you guys feel, as the co-directors, how do you guys feel the show went?
I think it went fantastic. I think we had a great turnout. I think the cast really enjoyed it. I think that's my main goal as directing, is that the cast would have a good time and enjoy it and present quality theater for the community. So I think it was successful in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just blown away at how well everything came together, I guess, and then how much feedback, amazing feedback we got from the community. Like, we totally blew their socks off, and their shoes off.
Yes, we got rave reviews from everybody in the community. I had several people stop me after the show and tell me how much they enjoyed it and how much they enjoyed just having that option, as in our community, continuing that local community theater. And the talent that we have in our community always blows me away.
Yeah.
Every time I direct, the talent that we pull, I sometimes I'm like, I don't know where all these people came from.
Yeah.
But having Molly's dancers involved as well, just stepped up that talent pool, because then we had all of the talented dancers as well with our actors and singers.
So explain a little bit about how that kind of came together. I mean, this is a unique pairing, right? So obviously some of your dancers will be involved in theater, just is the nature of performing arts, right? But this was one of the few times that you guys have, as a company, really been fully involved.
Yes, yeah. So our schedule for dance is, August through May. So we really can't do any Warren Player show, because it's October, maybe February, April. Our competition team schedule just doesn't allow for that. So we've worked together. I've choreographed some of Jen's shows before, and we've always wanted to co-direct or kind of come together. And so I just told her it has to be a summer show. And that's kind of been unheard of with Warren Players the last few years, was to do a summer show. But if we can do a summer show, then my dancers can be a part of it.
Yeah.
And then I was hoping for them, that'll expose them, because a lot of them didn't know they could sing. They've never really been in a show in that aspect. They've just been the dancing part, and that's it.
And we always find a couple, one or two gems in there. When you did White Christmas, we found a couple gems in there too, of dancers that really had great vocal talent as well. And we did for this one too. So and Molly and I have actually been friends since I was 16. She was 16 when we met and worked together. Oh yeah, just about 10 years ago. We worked together at
Pencom Internet.
Pencom Internet, many years
There's a
ago.
blast from the past.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've been friends and known each other since then. So we've always wanted to do something together. Since I've been involved in the theater I've been involved since 2015. My son was in Winnie the Pooh back in 2015. That's how my husband and I got pulled back into the theater.
And then her husband was in 2015, White Christmas.
Yeah.
So I
White
did
Christmas.
direct for Warm Players back in 2015, and that was a November show. But again, it was like I took my whole company, and we just And they asked me to do it because it was it's such a big dancing show. So that was my first taste of it, and then I just because of my schedule have been out of it. So, but then Jen always did my lighting for Christmas Spectacular. She was my lighting designer. So, yeah.
So while this might have been, one of the few first official stage full collaborations, it's not like this was a new partnership in any way.
Correct.
No, we've been friends for a long time.
So besides the timing, what made this show the right one for you to get the company?
Well, actually, it wasn't supposed to be this show.
Yeah, it was something different. I don't remember what it was.
It was actually going to be Grease that we were going to do. But then we found out when players tried to get the rights for Grease, we found out that the rights were a little more expensive than they were willing to put up. So we had to pick a different show. And then we were just racking our brain as to what would be good.
Bass show.
It had to be a heavy dance show.
Yeah.
So then I don't even know how Footloose got mentioned.
That was you. That was definitely all you. You brought that. You messaged me one day, and I was like, I like Footloose.
I mean, who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Right? Yeah.
I grew up with that playing in my house all the time.
Yeah. So we were just racking our brains trying to find another show that would be heavy in dance that we could get the dancers involved. And then when we started planning it, we found out that they're actually not supposed to dance, because the town prohibits dancing. So the way it was written was they're not supposed to dance until towards the end. So I'm like, well, how do we? That's why Holding Out for a Hero was like a dream series. The dancers were dancing in the girl's dream. So that's how we kind of worked that in. But I don't even remember how we came up with it.
I'm glad we did. It was. Yeah, I'm really glad we did. It was a really fun show, and for sure,
Well, and you guys talk about the dearth of talent that we have here in Warren County, and it seems like obviously there are some names that if people go to multiple of these shows, you can see kind of over and over again. But it seems like every time that we go, there's always somebody who either has been in the background or is maybe doing it for the first time. That you just come out of it and just like, whoa, where did they come from? Where has this been? And that was certainly the case. With Footloose, I ran into Wyatt Stearns' mom on the way out on Saturday night. And I had to tell, it was just absolutely phenomenal. It was so good. I'm laughing the whole time. He's on stage practically.
Right.
But it seems like that's always the case with these kind of shows.
yeah.
And that was Wyatt's first show.
Yeah.
That was the first time. He's been in other things for choir and stuff at school, but he's never done a performance for Warm Players. So we always, I feel like every show we find those gems of talent that people, and it's just pushing them outside their comfort zone, and putting them in those roles where they really have an opportunity to shine. Where I feel like the same thing happened with Caroline as well, because Caroline's had a lot of ensemble type roles where she really hasn't had that spotlight to be able to shine, and she sure did.
Yeah.
They both did.
Yeah.
They all did.
So it's funny you say that, though, because we kind of here at Your Daily Local put her in the spotlight a little bit of time. She often will sing the national anthem before volleyball and basketball games.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that she was cast as Ariel, I was like, she could be really good. Having heard her sing numerous times. Okay, I know she's got the vocal chops, but now can you bring that performance level to it? And she absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. And with Wyatt coming and auditioning, so we held 2 days of audition, Sunday and Monday, and he didn't come to either one of those. And his choir teacher, Joy McMonigal, who was our vocal director for the show, she had encouraged him to come, and he just didn't, whether he forgot about it or what, who knows. And then we added a third audition day because we did need more male roles. So that was like a Wednesday, and school was still in session then when we did auditions. Yeah, it was the end of May.
Yep.
And his buddy Aiden Anthony, who is on like the tech side of everything, he's one of our lighting designers with Jen. He then encouraged him, and that's how he showed up. And I mean, he walked in to we had at the dance studio that day.
Yeah.
And I graduated high school with his dad.
Yep.
And he walked in, and I was like, we have found our Willard.
Yeah.
Like, 100%, there was no, that was the role for him.
Yeah.
So.
And casting was really easy in that sense, because a lot of the people that came out were like, yes, you fit this. I don't think we didn't have a lot of back and forth on casting. We were like, Wyatt is definitely Willard. Caroline is definitely Ariel. We definitely had a lot of easy casting choices there. So
now, is that typical, or is it usually like, I can see this person as maybe this character or this character? You kind of have to decide and hope you decide correctly, or what's the process usually like?
It usually is a little more challenging than it was with this one, for me anyway, because you always have. I was in past shows, I've always had where you have someone that doesn't quite fit the role, but you could see them growing into it, kind of. So then you have to decide between a couple different people, that if you don't have someone that says, I fit this role perfectly, so, and I've definitely had that in the past, that they haven't exactly fit the role, but I could see them maybe growing into it, but we're going to have to work with them on their character a little bit, but we didn't have any of that on this one. So I think this one was very much, we did some typecasting.
And so you'd mentioned kind of being a little short on some of the male roles. Again, is that typical, or do you see? I mean, I know for a lot of people that kind of traditional theater is kind of a woman's domain, But do you see that that's still the case now, or has that, as years have gone by, maybe not been as prevalent?
I feel like the kids that have grown up, like Logan Johnson and his group, there was a lot of males in those classes. But as those kids have graduated and moved on to college, we don't have a lot of male in that teen area. But I do feel like there's some strong male. When we went and saw the SLT Academy show, there's some strong male kids coming up through that. But there's just like a lull in the teenagers that we have right now. There's not a lot of male. And honestly, adult men have always been a challenge for getting adult men to be involved in the theater. We're always a little short on those.
And sometimes the timing. So like that was one thing about a summer show. So we did luck out. Logan Johnson was home on break from Point Park University. So he was on summer break, and he was able to come home, and that was exciting. And then there was a couple like Colin Dreher, who we've worked with in the past. He was going on vacation. So he would have been a great asset to the show, but he was like, I can't, I'm leaving. Like I think he came to opening night, and then he said he left on vacation.
Yeah.
So that was a little tricky too. But it all worked out. But you're gonna get that with any time of year as well.
Right.
So had we done it in April, then we wouldn't have had Logan.
Right.
But we might have gotten other people or whatever. So.
Right. Yeah. And during the school year, you're competing with football. I mean, fall shows are always hard because of football and sports and competing with all of the different after-school activities. So it's just a matter of finding those kids that are not involved in the other things that can be involved in the theater. So.
Well, and I mean, it seems like even just from the time that you and I were in school, the amount of activities that you have to choose from has just exploded, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was sports and choir and maybe class plays. I think we're about the. I mean, obviously, we weren't players; we were still here then. But and now it's just like, okay, you've got your high school sport, and now maybe your travel club,
Traveling, yeah.
and you're doing, maybe something else on the side or
Dance.
working, and dance. Yeah. But again, it just seems like, just the wealth of opportunity
Yeah.
available, but then to still get the amount of people to come out and want to be part of these shows really, I think, speaks to how highly valued the one players are in this community.
Yeah. And we have adults that are in almost every show.
Yeah.
I think Angela Brew has been in every show in the last well, since she started being involved in theater. She was our Betty Blast, so she got the big laugh with pushing her off stage in her very high voice.
And her roller skates.
Yes, and her
Those
roller
were her
skates.
own roller skates. That's how she got that part.
Yes,
So on
and
the
she
audition form, she wrote, "Oh, my own pair of roller skates." We're like, done. That's you.
and she can roller skate,
Yeah.
even though she pretended not to be able to
Right.
during the show. She can roller skate very well. So Logan, on the other hand, was learning.
So not a lot of acting done with the little baby steps across the stage.
A little
Yeah.
bit,
A
a
little
little
bit.
bit. I think he was probably a little better than the baby steps across the stage. I think that was acting a little bit, but yeah, he definitely had to practice at home.
All right, well, with that, we're going to take a quick break here from our sponsor, but we will be right back with more coffee and a conversation right after this.
The only thing worse than being stuck at home is being stuck at home without coffee. We can't let that happen. Browse our selection and order online. From sweet to tangy, hot or iced, we have something for you. White King Coffee, because every cup makes a difference. Cheers.
Saturday's night. Or we're back.
We are back, yes.
That was a short commercial.
Yes. Try to keep it short and sweet. We don't want anybody to go away. And welcome back to Coffee and a Conversation presented by White King Coffee. We are at the White King Cafe, which is open in the plaza across from Tops through all the downtown construction. Stop in, get yourself a fresh cup. I highly recommend the Dragon's Roast, very good. And if the temperature's a little warm, as it is today, a little frozen lemonade, maybe some iced mocha as well. And if you don't want to stop in and don't want to deal with that construction, don't worry. White Cane's also available on DoorDash. You can also order your favorite roast to brew at home at whitecanecoffee.com. And we are joined again this week on Coffee and a Conversation by our special guest, Jen Bailey, Mildly Dias Geer, co-directors of the recently wrapped Footloose, the musical. And, on Saturday night at the curtain call, the cast members kind of brought everybody up on stage and gave thanks. And one of the things that was mentioned that kind of caught my attention was, the casting and rehearsals and everything took approximately 8 weeks. But for you guys, the process from start to final curtain on Sunday afternoon was significantly longer. I mean, how long ago did you start planning for this summer show?
I would say I've been planning since January, February. And that was actually a short time for me for planning. I planned this in a smaller amount. I had a lot of other things going on in my life, and so I didn't feel like I put as much planning time into this one as I do some other ones. But it helped to have a co-director as well, so that not all that planning was on me. But for my first time directing, I started planning a year in advance, just to make sure that, because it was my first time, because I wasn't sure what I was doing. So I started working on it and really getting ideas from other people and going to see shows. My first time directing was Willy Wonka back in 2018. So I went and saw Willy Wonka when they did it they had it in Franklin. We went and saw it there, and I did a lot of research ahead of time. This one it was definitely 4 or 5 months before we even had auditions that we have to do scheduling and planning. I'm a big scheduler. I like to have the cast scheduled just when they need to be there, so that we don't have wasted time, because I don't want to waste their time. I don't want them to waste my time. So I like to have a schedule that's really organized. So I do spend a lot of time on the scheduling and getting that done ahead of time.
January, I feel like, as we started talking about it, I probably didn't start playing until like May though. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you had
I did
competition,
have
yeah.
a lot in my dance school. I do own Molly High School Dance
Yeah.
Plug, Dance Express, the competition team, Dance Unlimited, the recreational team. So we had competitions and then the recital. But because we co-directed, we totally divided and conquered. Like, and I told her, so I don't love directing the blocking or the set design. So that was all her.
Right.
And I said, I'll take choreography and some blocking. I did do some blocking and costumes. And that's kind of my world and what I do all the time.
Right.
So and then I knew after May, I'd have like a huge chunk of time to like devote to it. So I started that. But that worked really well. Like, I mean, we just kind of split and ran with it.
Yeah.
So,
And I felt neither one of us were as stressed as we
No.
as we have been in, because directing it can be very, very stressful. And in the past, doing it on my own, I definitely feel like I was more stressed than dividing and conquering and doing it together.
Yeah.
So I think that was really beneficial to have both of us working on different aspects of the show, and really made it come together well.
yeah.
Well, and you know, I'm sure not many people just understand what all goes into directing a stage performance like this. You know, it's not like you just walk in and say, "Okay, you're going to be the lead, and you're going to be the supporting actor. You're going to do this. Okay, here's our set guy and action." Right? You know, there's
That would be fantastic. Well, no, it probably wouldn't be.
but I mean, there's so much more. You know, like you were talking about, like blocking and costume design, and choreography, and you know,
Lighting.
casting and lighting, and making sure that you have a crew that understands all of that stuff and what they're doing and how to do it. And you've got to coordinate with the library theater to make sure that you have dates for your show and all that kind of stuff. I mean, just kind of briefly explain a little bit how much of that extra stuff goes into all of that prep time on top of, okay, now we're into rehearsals and getting ready.
That stuff happens at 2 a.m. when you're trying to sleep.
And she's not wrong.
You wake up and you're like, oh, all this and that. And I do think, and I was thinking about this earlier today, was sound. I don't know if people understand how important sound is to a show. And Corey Bailey, which is her husband, because we needed more males, he originally was casted in the show. Well, then we couldn't find a sound person, whether it's on vacation or whatever. And so we actually pulled his part and gave it to someone else to put him on sound. Because we're like, this is huge. Like, you can't just come in and it's about, I don't even know what's all involved in sound, but he's in control of all the microphones when they go on, when they go off. The cast doesn't walk off stage and turn off their microphone. Like, he controls that. So, like, if he doesn't hit the volume down quick enough, because he's got a lot of other things to do, and they start talking on the side of the stage, you're going to hear that. And then he does all the extra sound effects on the volume of the show in general, and just getting the mics ready, getting the mics figured out after every night. I mean, there's so much that goes into sound, and I feel like that's the number one that people just don't really understand. They'll talk about it when it goes wrong, you know?
Right, yeah, when there's feedback or when you hear talking on the side of the stage or whatever, though. But it really, a lot goes into that. And with this show, the theater actually just purchased more microphones, but they didn't come in until opening night. So we had no rehearsals with the new microphones. So that was actually some of our struggle with the sound on opening night was we had some interference within the old microphones with the new microphones, and we just didn't have we should have taken a lot longer during our mic checks to check all of that stuff. But we thought we thought we were good, but
came. I was backstage because I did costumes, so I did stay backstage for that most of the time. And usually, directors like you pass over your show baby, your baby.
It's passed
in
off
everyone
to
else's hands.
To
so
the stage
she's
manager.
Always out in the house, but I was backstage, which I'm glad I was because opening night there was a lot going on, and the tornado warnings and all that stuff.
Oh, right.
But so I'm like standing on the side of the stage, and I was like, "Can you guys hear Caroline?" Like Ariel, like
Yeah.
I'm like, "Can you guys hear her?" And they're like, "Well, it's hard to hear." I'm like, "All right, whatever." She comes running back, and she's like, "Caroline's mic's not working." And I was like, "Okay." So we run over the side of the stage, and she was on stage in like the school scene, and we're like, "Caroline." And she walks off, and
Yeah.
her mic was interfering. She had one of the new mics, or maybe someone else,
Right.
whatever was going on.
Yeah.
And then Alan Brandhoover was standing right there, and he's like, "She can have my mic." So
Right.
she's texting Corey, and so he's like, "Yes, switch." So we quick switched mics. I don't do anything with mics, so I was like, "I'm out."
Right.
So Jen Hoffman came over and started
Yeah.
switching mics, and then it worked, and then we sent Ariel back out.
The things that you don't
Right.
see
Yeah,
from
you
the
have no
audience.
idea.
You don't see the director running around this. Like I ran around, and then the sky was black at that
Right.
point. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my! Like I'm running around the outside of the theater, and I'm like, oh, please don't rain on me.
Well, and you mentioned in that process of them switching mics that you're texting Corey. How beneficial is it to have that? We have that technology now,
Yeah.
right? To where
Right.
you can say,
Yeah.
"Hey, these two are switching mics," so
Yeah.
that he's aware. Because then all of a sudden, I'm turning his mic off when
Right.
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
hear her.
Yeah, I would not have switched them without his okay, go ahead,
Right.
because he's got to switch them on his on his
Board.
board.
Yeah.
Like he has number 2 marked for Caroline, but
Right.
now it's really going to be number whatever 14.
Yeah.
So so I wouldn't have done that without his okay. So yeah, definitely
Yeah.
being able to text him, because then I would have had to run back around the theater and go up to the sound booth to ask him. So yeah, and the fact that we can have our cell phones on so
Right.
we can communicate, because a lot of times you can't. I mean, you do have headsets too that we
Yeah.
can communicate. So I could have run over to the stage manager's
Yeah.
desk
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, Corey," and talk to him over the
Yeah.
headset. But the headset's hard for Corey too, though, because you're trying to listen to sound,
Yep.
so you can't have the headset on when you're trying to listen to the volumes of sound and who's on and off. So yeah, definitely having that technology was beneficial in this case.
Well, and it allows you, right, to kind of keep something like that more behind the scenes,
Yeah.
because people aren't seeing you,
Right.
Kind of. Trying to, as calm as possible. It's all part of the show, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Oh, they saw me on Thursday because
Yeah.
the light with the tornado, we had the flash of the power
went
flashed
out.
out.
oh,
On
yeah.
opening night,
Yeah.
and any kind of power surge like
Right.
that takes our light board out. So the kids were on stage in dark until they got work lights,
Yeah.
and they hit them with spotlights. And it was during holding out for heroes, so they were dancing.
Yeah.
And the sound didn't cut out, thankfully, but the light board completely went down. So they saw me running up, and I was not getting in the elevator at that point
Yeah.
because I was like,
Oh,
oh no. So I ran up every step in that theater all the way up to the top to the light board and got up there and helped Andrew reset the light board.
'Cause you actually have to unplug it yourself.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't
you
know
have
that.
to-
He knows now.
You have to unplug it from the network entirely and let it
Oh,
reset,
geez.
and then plug it back in when the power flashes like that.
And it takes about 4 minutes, because holding out for heroes is about 4.5 minutes. And they had just started, and then they kept going. The
Yeah.
girls did singing, and then the dancers
Yeah.
enter a little bit later. But they were like, "What do we?" And we're like, "Just keep going." And then someone said, "Work lights," and then the spotlights worked. So they just did that, and we're on the side of the stage with our cell phones ready for the flashlights, and just if anything were to happen real quick. And then about right at the end, I think there was like 30 seconds left of the song, the stage lights came back on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and
It
it probably, I don't know how my in-laws came that night, so I should ask them.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it looked like to the audience,
Right.
and it very well could have just looked like that's how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think the timing of
Well, when you
was
said
on
that,
stuff.
that's supposed to be like a dream sequence.
Exactly. Yeah.
They fall asleep when they can't have the lights
Exactly.
on when they're sleeping. Right?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So it was the
So,
perfect
yeah.
song for it to happen.
Yeah, worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Well, and that
Funny.
was, so when we were there, I think on Saturday there was, briefly it was maybe 10 seconds where the music cut out during the
Yeah.
song.
During the Still
Mhm.
Rockin'.
Yes.
Yeah.
And And to their credit, they just kept going. But what does that say about just that the professionalism of these,
Of the
for the
cast.
most part, kids,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That knew to
Absolutely.
just keep
It was,
going
yeah.
instead of that,
Yeah.
kind of deer in headlights. I mean, the natural reaction is the music stops and go on, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But they just kept going. And what does that say about that?
Yeah, and they did have a little bit of a moment during Holding Out for a Hero. They looked at Joy, the vocal director, and Joy's like, just keep going,
Yeah.
because that's at that point, that's the only person they have in front of them is the vocal director down in the pit area. So, but yeah, the professionalism of the cast and where they were able to just, even though technology inevitably will fail us. So yeah, it was very professional in both instances of the cast. They just kept going.
And good training. I mean,
Yeah.
their vocal director, Joy McMongle, is a lot of their school
Yeah.
choir teacher
Yes.
as well. So I'd say good training on her part.
Yeah.
And that Saturday night, I don't even know what happened with that sound glitch, but definitely, like you said,
Yeah.
it went out for like 10 seconds. And I was worried it was going to pick back up where it was, and she had continued
right,
on,
yeah.
and it didn't.
Yeah.
Like, it cut out,
Yeah.
kept going, and then came back on.
Yeah.
So it picked right back up where she was at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so.
she just kept singing. Yeah, that was great. That was perfect.
Yeah, so I mean, and again, but to have some of those minor glitches, which I mean, it happens. I mean, we've had it happen. We live stream a ton of events and things
Yeah.
happen, right?
Right, yeah.
Especially here where we're trying to do like ice and our football games. Cellular reception is
Yeah.
not the best in some of the more
Right.
rural areas of the county, and sometimes that stuff just cuts out. But that's just technology, and it seems like you said if the sound was bad, people would kind of let you know. But to have those instances and people still just, it's gone, right? Like it happened, but it's by the time the show's over,
Yeah.
it's not even really.
Yeah, they
you know.
forget about
Yeah.
it.
But again, what does that say? I think to the level of performance and the way the show was presented, that people were just like, I don't care, it was a great show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was stopped and told how professional the show looked, and that's like the biggest compliment we can get. And we take pride in that.
Yeah.
That's what we want. So yeah. My husband told me someone he worked with, they're across the street, someone was staying in an Airbnb from out of town, and they came to see the show. So they have no connections or ties to Warren County.
Right.
And they travel all around, and they told him that it was one of the best shows they've ever seen. Yeah. Uh-huh. And that's cool. And they're like, we've seen a lot of shows. And who would have thunk, in our town. And that's what's cool. And I love that we had just under 2,000 people attend, but we had probably over 2,000 people for sure, because I think total ticket was like 1,962.
Yeah.
But then all your volunteers,
Right.
so we had over 2,000 people watch the show, and that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think word got out, and I think repeat
Yep.
people came, and sometimes people just don't know what to think of shows that get put
Yeah.
on, right, by community theater.
Right.
And they were just blown away. And that was our goal.
Well, I'll say this. I ran into a friend of ours. Obviously we came. It was our anniversary. We came on Saturday night, and he said, "Oh, how long have you been around?" 17 years. He's 17 years doing a show. And, well, that means for 20, then you got to take her to Broadway, right? And I read it, and, afterwards, I was like, what do we need to go to Broadway? I say that a little facetiously, but in all seriousness, the level of performance, obviously you don't have the budget that a Broadway show has,
Right.
but the level of performance and the professionalism and the way these shows have been put on, and this was just the latest example, in my opinion. Why would we need to go shell out all this money to go to Broadway
Right.
when we've got the talent that we have here, the theater, I think itself just gives the shows that ambiance, right? That this is kind of that old timey state, as much new tech as we've added, but it still has that kind of old time stage feel when you're sitting in the audience there. What do you need to go 100 miles away for when you've got it right here in your backyard?
I agree, 100%.
Absolutely. And we're just thankful that the community continues to come out and support Warm Players and the theater and all the shows that they bring in. And, we're just thankful for the audience. 'Cause we wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for the people that came to see it. So we're thankful that you like our little local community theater versus Broadway.
So, and then, with the show, like as you mentioned, this was a movie that was on in your house all the time, which I'm just shocked that you had a movie about dancing was on in your house.
No way.
But to be able to have a reference point, what are the benefits of that? And then maybe some of the, are we really going to be able to replicate what people are expecting to see of something that's, that had the longevity that a movie like Footloose has had?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I haven't seen Footloose in a while, actually. So all of my memories are from childhood pretty much. So what stuck out to me the most? So, and I wanted to incorporate, and a lot of people caught this, and I was so excited, was the feet. So at the very beginning, when it transitioned from Chicago to Beaumont, we brought that. I was like, let's bring the main in, and you're going to stop it right. So you're going to see that much of their feet. Because that was one of the things that stuck out to me the most, was the intro to the movie with all the different feet. Mm-hmm. And so I got it. She let me have my way with that. And it went in, and I was like, okay, this is great. And then as the show progressed and people watched it, so many people caught that. I was like, yes, that's what I wanted.
And it got a big applause every night, yes.
And then there's a couple of the one dance that, I got that in there. Logan had watched Footloose multiple times. I'm going to guess he studied Kevin Bacon in that role. And he brought to the table the gray sweatshirt. And I was like, yes, I remember the gray sweatshirt, so that was what he's like. I'm like, absolutely. So we wore that. And there was just a handful of things that we wanted. My sister, Trisha, was like, I wanted to know how they were going to do the tracker scene, right? When you got a shoelace tied.
Yes.
So that would have been somebody's eyes. Yeah. Right. And Jen staged that one. And I loved that scene with adults up on the platform. And and then she had the vision of the dancers coming in. At first, I was like, I don't see it, but I'll make it happen. That's cool. And
you didn't see it until you watched it from the front. When she watched it from the front on Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. Then she finally said, I see it now.
And that, and Logan was going from group to group, and she wanted the dancers in. And so those three dancers, actually, they're my seniors this year. They improv the whole time. Yeah, that wasn't even choreographed. I told them, I said, just go out and this is what I want to see. And they did it. They improv the whole entire thing.
And the interaction with Logan at the end of that, where it's almost like a dance fight scene where they're surrounding him and he's pushing. It was fantastic. The way that it turned out the way I envisioned it. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. So.
Yeah. No, and it's funny you say that because I went home, I think it was Monday, and dug the DVD out of our little so we put it in and watched it. It was just like, oh yeah, I remember, because there were certain things, like you said, with the feet and the tractor.
And Willard dancing. That was my big. I wanted to make sure we got the classic big step touches. And that was my other favorite.
Well, and that process of him just not wanting to get out on the dance floor until in the movie it's until the other guy starts dancing with Rusty, right? And then it's
right.
I'm gonna have my girl. I'm gonna come out here. Yep. And, then we get onto it. But yeah, it's interesting to then to watch the show and then to go back and watch the movie for it. And just how closely you can replicate a lot of that stuff on stage. Obviously from film to stage is a massive difference in and of itself. But to be able to replicate so much of that stuff on stage was really impressive.
No. And in the side note story, the rehearsal process for Willard, teaching Willard how to dance, he actually had to miss that night of rehearsal. Willard did. Wyatt did. So I filled in. And so that whole dance group, my dancers, and some of the newer Warren players to the dance world of mine, they were teaching me how to dance. I was Willard. And they were like, this is so weird. Like, why are we teaching you how to dance? And it was the best night of my life. Like, I got to pretend I didn't know how to dance. And that was one of my favorite scenes to set for sure.
So how hard was that for you to go in there and act like you had no idea?
I had a
what you were
blast.
doing?
I was gonna say she had fun with
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. I was like, yep. I dug deep.
Well, I thought it was interesting because anybody who went or had seen the program, everybody, all the cast members got to talk about their favorite memories from rehearsal and stuff. And I mean, by far, that was the most popular memory.
Was.
Oh, Molly came out and bet it was Willard. And it's like, you see that, right? And you're going, okay, but why? Why was that so good? See, and now we know.
Now
See,
you
this
know.
is why we have you guys come on the show, because now you can explain some of that stuff.
We need a bloopers
Yeah.
video because we recorded
I've-
most rehearsals
Yeah.
we recorded. So a lot of those, like Molly being Betty,
Oh yeah.
that was hilarious
Yeah.
when she filled in for Betty, and Logan got his Mickey Mouse voice going on. And it was hilarious. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. But we have it on video. We need to put like a
should.
bloopers
Yeah.
together. That'd be fun.
That's what's fun too with the cast. Like, if people are missing, then other people in the cast will fill in for them. And then sometimes we fill it. Maybe more so me. Like she's like, I don't like the stage. I love the stage. Anytime I can go up there, I'll go there. But yeah, so once it hit rehearsals on stage, I got to fill in a little more for people. I was the coach one night and Betty Moss, and I just had a ball. I was Alan one night.
Oh.
That was great.
Yeah.
And then in the actual rehearsal, the cast members fill in for each other, and that's really fun for them and for us to see. Yeah,
I think that makes some of the best memories when they fill in for
yeah.
each other, and it's usually hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
fun.
And so you guys were kind of both talking as we were getting set up for this game in today. You mentioned you weren't able to get any rest, and you were both saying, "Oh, I'm still singing the songs."
Yes.
But now that it's essentially been a week since Final Curtain, have you been able to kind of relax and look back on it and really take it in, or are you still in that tensed up a little?
I'm still in the show low.
Yeah.
Like I haven't even made a post on Facebook yet, and that's huge for me.
Yeah.
Like I haven't done. She did. She filled out picture memories and all the things, and I don't know. Like I'm still in this weird show low. Really, like I haven't taken it all in. And I can't wait to get to that point, and I'm sure I will. I'm just catching up on sleep, and I'm lucky I can do that.
Yeah.
And just starting the dance business back up, so it's just kind of been a whirlwind still for me.
And for me, I always take it all in on after loadout on Sunday on that last show. I'm always the last one at the theater, and I always take a picture of the empty house after everything's gone. The sets broke down. That was my first picture that I posted on my Facebook, and that's my closure for me. Just cleaning everything and just kind of looking back, from rehearsal, from auditions all the way through, and just remembering all of that on that last moment. And that usually is a very emotional moment for me, and then I just kind of leave it all there on the stage, and then I'm done.
All right, so one last thing before I let you guys get out of here, but obviously you've both been in stage and theater, performing arts in one way or another for a long time. If you had a chance to collaborate again, what would be the one show that each of you personally or together, whatever, would look at and go, that's the one I want to do next?
Wow.
I do think someday it would be fun to do Grease. That's a pretty big cast.
Yeah.
You'd have to, but that would be fun. I like big name shows.
Yeah.
I really do. So that would be the first one that popped in my head.
The first one that popped into my head with Molly would be something like Chicago or something with a big dance numbers.
Yeah.
I tend
My
to go
alumni
big. I tend to go, yes, your alumni dancers, probably not the little dancers. That's an adult show.
And there was
but
Footloose, they had to be 13 and over to be in
Right,
Footloose. and Chicago would probably be like 18 and over. So.
Yes, Chicago's I think it's a rated R show.
But we can do that someday.
But yeah, we've talked about a couple different shows, but to collaborate together, it really has to have a lot of dance. It's got to be a dance heavy show. My one that I've been wanting to do for a long time now is Big Fish, but that's not a big dance show. Like you could come in and do the choreography, but it wouldn't be like a huge where all your dancers would be involved kind of thing. So, but I love the storyline for that. So if you don't know Big Fish,
That seems like it would be a very set intensive
it
show.
is.
You'd
Yeah.
have to have a lot of, maybe local artists come in.
Yeah. It is a pretty
put that
big
together.
set.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We'll be on the lookout for that. I know. I mean, obviously the foreign players are not taking any breaks. They're already, announcing casting for Guys and Dolls coming
this
up.
weekend.
Yes, this
Yeah.
weekend, Sunday, Mondays auditions
Yeah.
for Guys and Dolls. So Dixie Brummingen is directing that. So
And September, October.
October.
yeah.
I think it's the first weekend in
Right.
October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
And
it's
then
like
it's a
October
Christmas
6th.
Carol right after that.
Yeah.
Yes, and then
Yeah.
Christmas Carol right after that.
And, so again, really no rest for the week because again, they're going to have so many of the same folks are going to, I'm sure, come out and audition and be part of the cast. And it's always interesting to see people go from one role to the next,
Yeah,
right? And how
yeah.
they're able to just change,
Yeah.
personalities.
Right. Yeah.
That's neat. And that was fun for me behind the scenes for Footloose because so there was the moment with Chuck and Ariel, right, where he's dragging her off the stage and like they're fighting, and Drake, who played Chuck, has like the biggest heart, and he is
the
never
sweetest
going to
kid
act
ever.
like that, ever.
Is so
Right.
against his natural character.
Yeah, and so I was standing on the side of the stage the one show when they came off, and he's pulling her off, and they're fighting, and they walk off stage and they high five each other.
Yeah.
Like, and I think they needed that every
Yeah.
time to be like, we're cool. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this is just
Yeah.
acting. And then every time, like, Vi and Shaw and Ariel, like, they'd have their moments. I'd watch them, and, like, Ariel could be so intense and then walk off and just be like, and just so, and Vi kind of, Julie Fofana the same way.
Yeah.
And then Doug McCracken, I feel like he would have to come off and just kind of take a moment. Because, he's like, he's never going to almost hit a woman.
Well, it's
anyone,
very intense role.
Yeah, it is.
an
I mean, it
intense
really
role.
is.
And I
It
feel
is.
like he would come off and just kind of, and I always wondered, I'm like, can they just walk off and just go back to like
Right.
normal?
Yeah.
And I think it's different for every person.
every person.
It's different,
Yeah.
and every role is different too. Because some roles you really have to embrace the character, and like I think for Doug, he really had to live in that moment to get that emotion that is involved in those scenes. So like you have to immerse yourself in
Right.
it. So
Yeah.
you can't just shut that off when you
No.
when you walk off stage. But some of the other ones that are like like Caroline and Drake, when they came off, like they needed that. They
Yeah.
needed that
Yeah.
little high
High
five
five
and woohoo, good job,
goofiness.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the goofiness
Right.
to reset from that intense scene,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
different for everybody in every show.
Well, and for her too. I mean, having, obviously having covered her in sports setting and things like that, and speaking with her from time to time, just to see that kind of like bad girl, defiant thing from her. Where I remember the first time I told her she was gonna play her the game interview. It was like, just. Really? Me? Just so
she's
excited.
so-
Yes.
so
And
sweet.
just that level of innocence, and then to see her on stage and just be like, you're really embracing this kind of, hey, I'm going to be, the defiant preacher's daughter and that kind of thing. It was, again, it's just, those are the kind of things that these shows can bring out of people. And even if you have had interactions with them in the past, to see them on stage and really embrace characters like that is really.
And what's really fun from a director's perspective is we get to watch that grow.
Yeah.
And we get to watch that develop. Like Caroline coming from, not really wanting to, do those things to like getting out there and just shaking it,
Right.
I'm like, whoo. So, but we get to watch that grow and develop during the directing and rehearsal process. So I think that's one of the neatest things about directing and able to see those characters develop and grow and just celebrating those moments when
Yeah.
they get it and they, finally embrace, because it does take a minute
Yeah.
to embrace that character.
You got to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, and that's hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even when you're on stage and you're experienced, to
Yeah.
just get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know.
And I will say the first costume piece that I purchased was the red boots.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Amazon.
Yeah.
But
You got two different
I
ones
did
to
get
choose
two different
from.
ones. And they were the red boots. And
Yeah.
we threw them on her like me too. And
Yeah.
she wore them every time. And
Yep. She
yeah,
broke them
She
in.
broke them in. And that helped with the character building, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, in costumes too, one of the other things that was mentioned by a lot of the girls was the 80s style prom dresses, right? How much fun was that to kind of go
That
back
was
to?
fun. And so I have two sisters, and they both came to the show, and they saw one sister saw two of her prom dresses up there. One saw one of hers. They both saw their bridesmaid dresses up there. And then my sister-in-law, Valerie Geer, she brought in like 8 prom dresses. I think 4 of them ended up in the show.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to like go through. I can't say my prom dress was up there, but that's
Pull them from family. Yeah. Family and
Little
friends
Yeah.
contributed.
late 90s.
I was
for
gonna,
that.
little 90s, right? Yeah.
And then the annex, the costume annex for Warm Players, like they had a bunch of that and a couple of thrift stores, purchases too.
Yard sales.
And that was fun. And yard sales. And I think that for especially my dancers, like they're young, kind of younger, and I had to be like, listen, I know that's not what you're going to wear to prom. We get that, but this is what needs.
Hey,
you have to
retro's in.
wear.
All right?
Yeah.
And
So
that is a tough aspect of it too, because sometimes you're like,
they're
really
like,
want
I don't
to
wanna
wear this,
long
Yeah.
sleeve lace.
yeah, like this is not my style.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
definitely,
it's the show.
yeah.
That was fun. That was.
Did you get a lot of? Is this what you wore to your prom kind of looks?
Yep.
I think she got a lot of. Do I have to wear this?
And some of them just embraced it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it's fun.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up here, but I think just to give you each one last, look back on this show. What was your favorite memory from the time you decided this was the show you were going to do until final curtain on Sunday night? What was your favorite memory from this?
Favorite memory. I'm gonna say probably watching Wyatt and his growth, and then like as we got through performances, he became comfortable enough on the stage that he was adding stuff that wasn't even in the script.
Yeah.
I'm like, the dog licenses, that was not in the script for him. So like he got so comfortable on stage and just bringing in new people like that. And I guess put a plug in there for Guys and Dolls too, because they do need a lot of men for that and male roles for that as well. So like if you're wanting to try, come on out and try something new.
They'll work
so,
around
yeah.
your schedule too.
Yeah,
Definitely. Geez, mine, I guess, right off the top of my head when you asked that would be the backstage. So again, when you direct, you're usually in the front. I got to sit in the back for costumes, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed watching it from the side. I enjoyed being around our amazing stage managers, Christine Smith. Like she's amazing. I was just all around backstage, and just to be on that side of it, that was my favorite memory. Watching the show grow from there, watching the interactions that the cast has, and just having fun. When that curtain came down and all the hustle and bustle that would happen, it was neat. It was just a fun memory. So I guess the actual shows would be my favorite memory.
Well, I can't say enough good things. Both my wife and I were thoroughly entertained, and I know everybody who was there Saturday night felt the same way. And as I said, I've seen all over the place, and anybody you talk to about the show, nothing but great things to say. And congratulations to both of you on a tremendous show, and all the cast as well. If any of you are watching, phenomenal performances all around. And ladies, thank you so much for taking some time joining us on Coffee and a Conversation. So glad you could stop by, and don't forget, every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m., White King Coffee presents Coffee and a Conversation. So for Jen and Molly, this is Brian Hagler for your Daily Local saying thanks for watching. Have a great Saturday.
Thank you, Brian.
know what would make that better? A cup of white cane coffee.
Wow, that really is great coffee.
White cane coffee, because every cup makes a difference.
It's not just about music lessons. It's about hard work, perseverance, dedication, self-expression, making memories. Let's make memories together.